Hey, welcome everybody to another installment of Bad Movies. And we're going to concentrate on Rambo First Blood Part 2 on this installment. And I have two people, I haven't seen this movie in a while, but I have two people that will be commenting on this, two trustworthy friends of mine. To the left, I have Tyler Smith.
I'm not Tyler Smith. I'm Astro.
Okay, start over. From the top.
Just do the wide shot.
Just do the wide shot.
Just start with the wide shot.
Let's start with the wide shot.
I'll just go Tyler. Okay, I'll go.
Let's just do the wide shot. We'll start with the wide shot.
I'll go to the left.
Just do the wide
we'll
shot.
Go Al Stroh, Tyler Smith.
Okay.
Then we'll do the wide shot and we'll start. Okay, so boom, right here.
Are we rolling?
Right here we go.
Is this the show?
Yeah, this is the show. Yeah.
This is the show, right?
Okay.
I mean, I think we should put everything we've just done into the show. This should all be the show.
We'll see.
This should all be the show now, I think.
Are we rolling now?
Yeah, we're rolling. We're rolling.
All right.
Well, hey, welcome everybody. I'm your host, Tim Tack, and this is another installment of Bad Movies. We're concentrating on Rambo, First Blood, Part 2, and I have two people here, two movie critics, friends of mine, that will do the job for me on commenting about this flick. We have Al Stroh to the right, Al Stroh.
Junior.
Al Stroh Jr. And then to the left of me we have Tyler Smith. Yeah. All right. Well, we're going to start this off. We know there was a first movie, a good movie, First Blood, and this morphed into the second movie we're going to talk about. I think, Tyler, we're going to start it off with you. Go ahead.
Okay. I will say this about Rambo First Blood 2. This movie is dumb with a capital B. I mean, watching this movie is like listening to a Ronald Reagan speech. You always get the feeling that something really important is about to happen, but somehow it never does. I mean, why did we spend billions of dollars on the Vietnam War and conscript all those guys to go over there and fight when we could have just landed Rambo with a knife and he would have defeated the entire North Vietnamese army all by himself? Why did we waste all that time and money and resources? You know, I mean, what's the difference between Superman and Rambo?
Well,
Kryptonite can stop Superman. Nothing stops Rambo. Nothing stops this guy. You know, and no nation,
Rambo here.
No nation, no war, no act of Congress can stop him.
Stop him. Yeah, they keep throwing him in jail too. Every time.
And that doesn't stop him.
Get him out of jail after he's like killed like 10 cops in the first one or something. No, I've been watching a lot of First Blood. They've been playing a lot on cable.
Yeah.
And so I've been watching that a lot because I'll watch that if there's no commercials. Yeah. You know what I mean? I'll sit. That's definitely a movie I'll sit and watch. But
it's one of my favorites too.
Well, the irony is that First Blood is, it was written by a guy who, if you read the book, it was written by a guy who actually lived in Iowa City, and he wrote the book, and it's about
alienation.
Those guys that come back from war.
Yeah, they're alienated. They're outcast. They're not wanted.
They don't come back. You know what I mean? It's like they can't adjust to life.
To society. Yeah.
They kind of get swept under the rug, and it's something that happens still. I think it
still happens. It always happened.
I think it always happened. I think it happened like in World War II, and it happened in Vietnam, and it happened. It's
probably even
now.
the Crusades 1,000 years ago.
And I think that it's like, but I think what happens is, I think every generation though likes to think they're the first one that's going to address it. Yeah. And they always act like it's this big revelation that, oh no, there's vets that have come back that aren't doing good. You know. Everybody acts like they just discovered that, and I think that First Blood kind of came out of that 70s reaction to Vietnam.
Yeah.
They acted like they were the first ones to discover that, no, actually the vets came back and they're not doing very good, especially the ones that were in the heavy combat or whatever, and they're having a tough time dealing with it.
Or even holding down a job,
Yeah, exactly. So First Blood, you've got the character Rambo who gets picked up by the sheriff, and the sheriff is just going to, played by Brian Dennehy, he's just going to drive him to the outskirts of town.
And tell him to get lost.
And tell him to get lost. And Rambo's like, no, I want to eat lunch.
And then I'll leave.
And then I'll leave. That's what he says. Yeah. And so he keeps walking back into the town. And so they arrest him, they take him down, they beat him up a little bit. The cops are complete jerks, of course, and violate his civil rights, up, down, left,
up the
and center.
Yazoo,
And what they do is they come at him with a a straight razor to shave him for his court appearance, okay? And he has a flashback to...
Nam being cut up with a knife by the Vietnamese.
Because he was a POW for a while, the character, right? And they went at him with a razor a couple times. And so he has a freak out.
And he attacks the guard.
Wastes everybody in the... I mean, he doesn't kill him, but he like breaks their legs, goes through like 5 or 6 cops and busts out of the station, right? Then he goes up into the woods, okay? Now this is happening like in the Northwest, like in Washington.
Yeah, Washington State or something like that.
So it's like it's a temperate rainforest.
Yeah.
It is. So it's like now he's back in like
his element.
He's on those like Vietnam forest terms, and now the cops have to go in after him.
But
now
they have to play at his game.
Now they're playing his game, and
but they don't know how to play it, and he
does.
Exactly.
This is the first movie where you had that sort of Vietnam
punji stick,
guerrilla type warfare, where he's sharpening like sticks,
punji
like
sticks.
the bamboo
Yeah, those are
stuff
punji sticks.
that snap up and hit people in the legs.
Yeah.
What happens, though, very quickly, even in the first one, though, is what starts off as like a story that's about one thing shifts into a story that's
about combat,
about glorifying combat.
Yeah,
because you're like sitting here watching him. Even the first one's guilty of this, is my point, to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Although the first one carries a much more straightforward message, it's not as cynical as the second one is. The second one's just a total money grab. But they're at least paying lip service.
The first one was an art film
themes.
Action hybrid, which is why I like it so much.
The first one is a good movie. It's probably, and I was thinking about it.
It's an excellent movie.
I think it's probably Stallone's best movie as far as I'm concerned.
I think so too. It's my personal favorite of all of his.
I'd rather watch that than the Rockies. Me too.
You know
what I'm saying? So it's like, I'm thinking it's probably his best movie, the first one.
So
then they come with the second one,
which was completely cynical, completely money grabbing, completely opportunistic, playing to the wounded ego of the American public.
Yeah, it's funny because what the second one is then he becomes a cartoon character for the second one, and it becomes, the whole second movie becomes a glorification of that war, you know.
And also
industrial military complex,
but also the movie is trying to play to our ego of losing that war. This time we get to win it.
He gets to go back to Vietnam.
He gets to win the war.
You can describe the plot of the second one. So at the first one, he's in
prison. He starts at
he blows up the whole town in the first one. He's a very damaged, deranged person. Yeah. And may I also add that in the book, at the end of the book, he kills himself. That's the natural arc.
In the book, the colonel.
No. He kills himself. He kills himself. Yeah, that's the natural arc for the character, though, is to commit suicide at the end of that story. Yeah. And they cut that out of the movie. And I was reading on the internet that Kirk Douglas was going to play the colonel.
Troutman.
But when they cut out the suicide at the end that was in the book, he said, forget it, because you've cut out the story. You've cut out the final arc is where that character has to go. But for all practical purposes, my point in bringing this up is, for all practical purposes, Rambo's story is told completely by the end of First Blood.
Yeah.
By the end of First Blood, this character has had his arc. This character is done. You know, it's like, he has had his adventure. He's done with his adventure. It's like he's made all
the. He's going to be in prison for the rest of his life.
He's going to go to prison for the rest of his life, and he's made all the salient points that he's going to make. You know, to bring him back as a character, there's no reason to do it other than
to make
money.
You
see what I'm saying? So it's like. It's not like there was anything that was.
Film.
He should have been technically dead at the end of the first film. So like that's where the end of his story really is. It's like it's like there's no reason to bring him back for the second one.
That's the end of that story.
Yeah. Okay.
Now
Let's talk about
for the money grab.
Yeah, the money grab.
So Tyler Smith, take us to the plot.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah. The thing.
So he's in jail.
Yeah. He's in prison. You know,
in the beginning.
making little big rocks into little rocks. You know. You know, with a sledgehammer.
Of course.
And
shows his muscles.
Yeah. And Troutman comes up to him and he tells him that he wants to get him out of here. And Rambo says to him, I thought this was hilarious, well, at least here I know where I stand. I'm like, you're standing in a prison. That's where you're standing. You know, and that line wasn't meant to be funny.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, but it was hilarious. And then what's even funnier is the scene that comes up after that, where he's talking to him at the fence. You know, and he says to
he's got him through the chain.
And Rambo asks him, "Do we get to win this time?"
Oh yeah.
You know, and I'm like, at this time it's up to Hollywood, and we know how that's going to turn out because your winning is going to make us a ton of money.
It's just such a stupid movie, and they tell him that they're going to send him in to take pictures of
just
POWs,
pictures,
right? Yeah, that's what they send him in to do. So it's like that's stupid just to begin with, but you know, I mean,
But what's even dumber? Let me explain. This movie follows all the hack filmmakers' checklist.
Yeah.
The hack filmmakers' checklist. Lots of explosions, lots of action, and of course defying authority.
Yeah.
You know, so
Defying
the whole
authority.
scene where he has the choice of rescuing one of the POWs or obeying his orders, taking pictures, and having the extraction team come in later. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
He decides to grab one of the POWs and get him out. And I'm like, I was in the Army. I was a soldier. I was an infantry rifleman.
So you were in the Army.
You don't. But my job was very similar to what Rambo does in this film.
They sent you in to waste villages and take down.
Yeah. When I was in the Army, they made me the PPM, the permanent point man. My job was to stand in front of everyone else and take the first hit. Yeah. And they liked me so.
Why doesn't that surprise me? Why doesn't that surprise me?
They told me they were going to put me in front of the sandbags.
Yeah,
they said to me, Smith, we don't want to lose a sandbag.
That's right. Yeah.
But the thing is tactically what he did was a idiotic, huge mistake because you don't alert the enemy that you're coming
there.
back to raid them later.
If that was his plan, to just take one dude out, you're basically guaranteeing the other guys are going to get killed, right?
Well,
if he
pretty much.
Because they're going to kill him and bury him and all.
Well, they can just kill them all and and that's it,
First of all, why would they? And the other thing is, like, didn't the Vietnam guys in this movie know the war was over either? Why would they bother feeding and housing and keeping these guys in the jungle for 20 years after everybody else had left?
They kind of explained that because we promised them war reparations and we didn't pay it, so they were using it as a bargaining chip.
Okay, but that's fine. But they would still need to let us know that they had them, and they would show their own pictures of them.
Yeah, you would think.
Like, here we have these guys. Give us some money.
You're being logical again,
instead
Alan.
Instead of hiding them in the jungle for 20 years and letting no one know.
Okay, if we're gonna nitpick, the logic of this film, we'll be here for 5 years.
Yeah, we'll be here for a while. We'll be here for a while. The best part is, there's another great part too that I was just thinking about, which is the fact that they get Charles Napier to play the CO of the little base that he goes to outside of Vietnam, right? And so if you guys don't know Charles Napier by name, he's been in a ton of stuff, but he's like famous for a couple things. He's famous for being one of the space hippies from the Star Trek episode, the guy with the heading back to Eden.
Yeah, that's him.
He's that dude, and he's been in a ton of movies. He was in Blues Brothers as like the hillbilly singer, all the way up through like Austin Powers as like the general.
So he's one of these guys, been a lot of stuff.
But my point is this: if you were to pick another sort of B-list actor that looked as close to Brian Dennehy, the villain from the first one, it would be Charles Napier.
Yeah.
They look almost exactly alike. So it's like they're totally trying to like set up in the second one. We can't bring back Brian Dennehy for this, but it's like, here's Charles Napier instead.
He's close enough.
He almost looks like him.
Close enough.
And it's like, and he goes through like the same sort of, he gives the kind of the same sort of aw shucks, sort of hillbilly in command performance.
They're redoing.
He's ripping off the bad guy from the first
same thing,
one. Yeah. So it's like there's this total like lame sort of side plot between these guys, and he's the CO who acts like he's like some kind of
isn't he a senator?
He acts like he's not even like a military guy, like some kind of
pencil pusher guy. He's a senator bureaucrat overseeing the whole operation.
And it's like it's one of these roles that like in the writing of it, it requires you to write this role that the guy makes decisions and has an attitude that would be 180 degrees from what his attitude would be in real life, just by definition of the fact that he was over there, and in the middle of that, he would have a certain a way of like reacting to the situation that. He acts like he's sitting in Cleveland or something like that the whole time, and he's in the middle of the jungle, and he's sitting here making these decisions about like pinching pennies and stuff like that. And it's just ridiculous because they're surrounded by multi-million-dollar equipment. It's like obviously no one cares if you're willing to spend millions of dollars to send some guy in to get pictures. Yeah. Which you would have to mount this mission.
Nitpick.
Yeah, the movie's terrible. Well, these are the things that I'm watching. No, these are the things that occur to me when I'm watching the movie that you're like, that's totally cheesy. That just doesn't ring true.
Oh yeah, well,
it marks the second one.
One of the things that got me about it, that scene with him, with Troutman, right as Rambo's leaving.
Right, Troutman comes back.
And he says to him, you think you'll find anything? It's unlikely, but there are people to be satisfied. He says, well, you don't seem to be very excited about it. And I had my own dialogue at that point. Well, I'm not a very good actor.
Yeah, exactly. Well, the other thing about Stallone is that he, at the end of First Blood, he does have that famous speech where he has the freak out. Yeah. And he's like bawling. Yeah, and he does good. He does really good. Was good. And everybody, when that came out, was like, oh, he did really good there. Yeah. So it's like, they also have to bring up this moment exactly the same the second time when he tries to go back there and do like this, I want
what
everybody wants, and just like, all the guys from over there, and he tries to do this thing, and like,
who gave their all?
The second time he just goes, it does not do a good job, I just saw that the other night.
It's interesting because I actually got to talk to Stallone through an intermediary when I was working on The Experiment.
Really?
And I got to talk to him about the Rambo movies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and he thought the second one was pretty bad.
Now wait a minute.
He
Is
actually
this the real Stallone, or is this like
Stallone, Sylvester Stallone. Yeah.
Or just Frank Stallone?
No, Sylvester. Yeah, but
I'm
what
not
happened?
Sure about that one.
But
I'd have to be in on that
it was
conversation.
interesting because. Even,
I'll bet it was.
even Stallone admits a lot of the movies he does are just terrible.
I don't know.
And he does,
he went back to the well. He went back to the well a couple of years ago and did Rambo 4.
Yeah, I know.
So he couldn't have been too ashamed of it because he was willing to milk it some more.
Well,
and Rambo 4 was actually better. See, the funny part is, then they had Rambo 3. Remember?
Yeah.
So Rambo 3 was came out right around the time of Desert Storm.
Yeah. Well, before Desert Storm.
No, it was Desert Storm 1.
Okay,
is when it came out.
Yeah.
Between 1 and 2, it was like early '90s when that came out, right? So now they were like, okay, well, we've got this new war.
And
we have this cartoon character. Let's try to shove Rambo into Iraq and Afghanistan and
all those places we're going to invade.
And you're like, it just failed. Nobody went to see that one. That wasn't a very big hit. And the reason is because in the second one, by the time you got the second one, you turned him into a cartoon character. Yeah. And not only that, but you turned him into this jungle fighter.
Yeah.
He's a jungle fighter, though, at this point. You can't take a jungle guy and put him in the desert. He doesn't have the right clothes.
Wrong skills, wrong hair.
Exactly. So it's just it's like, no. We need Rambo. He's wearing the green and the black. It's not like the brown and the light brown. It's like, no, he doesn't look good in that. He just looked dumb in the third one,
Yeah.
The fourth one was okay.
Spielberg,
the fourth one was okay.
Yeah, the fourth one was okay. Spielberg actually said about this film when it came out, Rambo, First Blood Part 2, he said the movie's very entertaining, but it has a dangerous message.
Yeah, I think so.
And he says, and the dangerous message is that we could have won the Vietnam War if we really wanted to. We could have won any war if we really wanted to.
Yeah,
and that's not the truth.
Yeah, it's not the truth. It's not the truth. Yeah, you're fundamentally taking something. And like I was saying, that's what we were saying earlier. That's what's so ironic about the Rambo movies is that they do, and it's even more ironic is that the fact, like we were saying, they do start off being anti-war.
Yeah.
They do start off showing you the quote-unquote horrors of war as far as Hollywood was willing to go at that point, and showing you a guy who was wounded, messed up, could not fit in with society. His life was basically, he was turned into a bum, kind of walking from town to town.
Time bomb, yeah.
You know what I mean? And was just going to snap at any time, You turn that into, making that guy, selling war, really. It's like glorifying it to this point where he's killing all these dudes, and they're fetishizing it, these kills, because it's like, by the end of Rambo, it's like he's not only knifing guys, he's got the arrows that are have blow up points.
Explosions,
you know what I mean?
So he's
he's not just going to shoot the dude. He's going to shoot the dude and blow him up simultaneously with his little bomb.
Explosion cell,
And so he's like boom, and so when he's shooting these dudes with the arrows, it's like literally they're exploding.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's not enough just to kill the guy with the arrow. Yeah. We have to explode his head.
Yeah,
as
yeah,
well,
because it makes more money. That's the reason.
But it's just
to me, the two most ridiculous scenes in the middle of the film were the ones where he jumps. He's being chased by a helicopter.
Yeah.
And he jumps in the water, to get away from the helicopter. Helicopter goes down low.
Yeah.
And they fire into the water, and the guy leans over, to try and see him in the water.
Yeah.
And he jumps out of the water, up into the helicopter, and grabs the guy, pulls him down into the water. I remember watching that. Johnny Weissmuller, Olympic gold medalist.
You would have to be doing some
couldn't have done this.
You'd have to be doing some serious
and I actually heard they had a hydraulic underneath him to push him up for that scene.
You would have to.
I mean,
there's another one.
But it was just. But the other scene that really killed me in the middle of the film was the scene where he's with his girlfriend.
Oh yeah, he falls in love with
this Vietnamese girl.
She's hot.
Yeah. And she tells him that what she wears around her neck is a good luck charm.
She gives him the necklace?
No, she doesn't give him the necklace. She tells him there's a good luck charm, and then she walks out into the open where the stream is, and she gets gunned down. I was like, let's see how much good luck that good luck charm is.
Being Rambo's girlfriend is like being Charles Bronson's girlfriend in the Death Wish movies. You're not going to make it to the end of the movie, sweetheart. It's like,
but the thing
it's the kiss of death.
The thing that killed me beyond that is after she's been gunned down, he takes the necklace and puts it on his own neck. I'm like, that thing's not a necklace, that thing's a bullet magnet. What are you doing?
Speaking of scenes here, Tyler Smith has put together a little, what you would say.
This is what I'm interested in.
Yeah.
This is maybe why I agreed to do this project in the first place. Because
okay, Doug, on me. We'll start over again. Right here.
Well, we can just cut to those action figures as I'm talking about it,
Well, we'll start over again. Well, here's an interesting thing. Tyler Smith has put together a nice little remake of the First Blood Part 2 with action figures, and he's going to explain some of these scenes courtesy of his First Blood action figures. Could you describe the first scene that we're going to see here?
Well, I actually have a scene where I recreate the jump out of the water to the helicopter.
This is exciting. No, I want to see this. I want to see this.
Yeah, and what I actually do is I film it in reverse. I actually drop the action figure into the water.
You drop the action figure?
And then I reverse the scene.
Oh my God.
Where it jumps out. It looks like it's jumping out.
Now this is true, right?
Yeah.
This is real, because I haven't seen this, but it's like, I just want to say, that's one of the reasons why I agreed to do this show. Because I want to be a part of this.
And I recreated
the action figure.
Yeah, I also recreated the helicopter attack on the POW camp.
Nice.
With little army men and a Roman candle.
All right.
That was another scene I wanted to talk about. Yeah. There were like 100 guys in that POW camp.
He takes them all out.
And he takes them all out single-handedly, practically.
The only other one that's kind of on that scale is when Schwarzenegger goes nuts at the end of Commando and kills like literally 80 or 90 guys. You can sit there and count them, and he like literally kills about 80 or 90 guys.
By himself.
By himself. It's just like.
And even when he's unarmed, he still kills them.
And they
have automatic
with
weapons.
The knives, he's like shoot. And then he's like, it just takes them all out. And then, the funny part was, I remember when this movie came out in '85, I was talking to one of my friend's dads who was in Vietnam and was in some of these types of combats where they were in close quarters in the jungle, et cetera, and had experience with some of these weapons and stuff. And there's a part at the end of Rambo where the helicopter is crashed, and then the other helicopter, the bad Russian helicopter, comes down.
The Hind.
And Rambo's sitting there acting like he's dead, like this. And then he goes like this with the bazooka and shoots the helicopter through the windshield and blows up the other helicopter.
That would have just killed him too, by the way. The
backblast from that inside of a helicopter.
I would have killed him.
Like completely filled the helicopter with like poisonous gas and
the rest of the crew with him.
And they were all right behind him.
Yeah, they would have been knocked right out the side.
And so it's like it would have just completely like burned them to a crisp. The backblast from that bazooka. But he like brings it up like this, and so it's like the end of that thing would be halfway into the back seat.
It was just
and you're
ridiculous.
Shooting that thing, and shooting a missile out of that thing.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
It's an
impossible shot.
That's what this guy was saying to me though. Even back then, so it's like even then, it's like when it came out, people realized that this is a ridiculous movie on many levels. I mean, honestly, it's like I can't recommend this movie. Yeah. I really can't, even for as bad as it is, just because, like you were saying earlier, I do think movies like this are a little bit dangerous, and this one just isn't enough. It's not cheesy enough. I would maybe go for 4 if I was going to recommend one. Now when he's 60 and he's still running around in the jungle doing it with the knife and stuff, now you've got something where it's turns into something that's more than the sum of its parts.
I like what Stallone said about Rocky IV. He said
with the Russian one.
Yeah, fighting the Russian, or it was 5, I guess.
When he was
fighting the Russian guy. Was that 5?
No, that was 4.
4. But he said to star in something like this, you've got to be sick, but to write it, you actually have to have a death wish.
Well, it's just one of those things where. I think that one I can recommend. Yeah. First Blood I can recommend. Yeah. First Blood I think is a good movie though.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call that a bad movie. Yeah. The second one I really can't. The third one is abysmal and it's not even fun. The fourth one though does kind of go back. It's getting into camp because at this point, like I was saying, Rocky's in his 60s.
Yeah.
He's running around in the jungle and he's trying. This one again, he's trying to go straight and not be rough and like not kill anybody. But he's Rambo. He just can't help like wasting like 50 people at a time every once in a while. And so I don't know. But I don't know. So you were wanting to do this. You were calling me.
One of the other points I wanted to make about this film.
What are you thinking?
Well, one of the other points I wanted to make about this film was. you know, in a movie like this, the outcome's never in doubt. You know he's going to defeat the Vietnamese.
Exactly, yeah.
But what was really surprising was they also threw in the politicians that the public felt stabbed us in the back of the Vietnam War in the first place. He defeats them and the Russian army all at the same time.
They throw in the Russians too. Yeah, they do throw in the Russians.
So it's like
the Russians show up.
I mean, it was and that scene just killed me.
Because this is back when we were still in the Cold War. So it's funny because you're right. So it's like what they do is they get Vietnam, and Vietnam was a Cold War war, but that was a hot war in Vietnam. Yeah. But they in the 80s, the Russians were the ones we were really afraid of because of the nuke race, and so it was like. Again, like it's just on the parallel where, like in the third one, they're trying to bring him into the Iraq-Afghanistan arena. Yeah. The second one, they're bringing in those Russians. You know,
so he can beat them.
To act like there was like tons of Russians running around during Vietnam on the ground and in helicopters and stuff, and it's just like no, they're just bringing those in because it's like then everybody extra hated the Russians that year.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? So it's like oh well, we got to throw the Russians in.
They haven't beat them too.
It's like if it was today, it's like we got to throw some terrorists in there. It's like you know, everybody hates the terrorists. now. We got to get some Islamic terrorists.
Yeah,
in there,
exactly.
You know?
Yeah.
And so,
the scene that killed me, though, in that, just real quick, okay.
How are we doing on time, Doug?
Yeah, how long are we gone?
Okay,
25 minutes?
We're
pretty good.
25 minutes?
We're at 25.
Okay,
we're good.
Like maybe about 5 more minutes.
Okay, yeah. But the scene that really killed me was, in the jungle, is where, you know, I'm adding my own dialogue as I'm watching this, like an MST-3000 thing, and I say to the Russian soldier, don't look behind you, that's just a harmless pile of mud. Yeah, and then Rambo comes out of the mine, grabs him and stabs him, you know.
That was another part, see, that was another part that they had. It's like, that's why, you know, once you get to the sequels, it's like you're invariably locked into bringing back the set pieces that were successful from the first movie. Yeah. And so that's a set piece that they ripped off from the first movie when he's going after the cops. You know, and using all these tricks where he's up on logs and jumping off of logs and stuff. And in the second one, then they get progressively more and more absurd.
Ridiculous.
So like, you're talking about when he's covered with mud. So like when it just looks like leaves and mud, and then he opens his eyes and you see like the eyes come out of the mud. That would take like an hour to get in there and get like covered up like that. You would need other people to like
push
help
that mud around you
and like mold it on you and put the leaves on just so. You know what I mean? It's like that. You wouldn't be able to just go like and like you know, you wouldn't be able to do that. You know what I mean? So they get. I'm just saying, like those kills.
It's comical. It's laughable.
They get more and more extravagant and out there to the point where, you know, I mean, the second one is what is it? It's like the first one's tragedy, the second one's farce. You know, it's like or whatever they say. It's like about history. You know? And so it repeats itself as farce. You know, in the second one. And it becomes. I mean, it's like equivalent of like, you know, a movie like an example would be like maybe One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. If they made One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest 2, and Jack Nicholson went to college, got his got his psychiatric degree, and went to work for the hospital that like abused him in the first one.
That'd be ridiculous.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's like that's what you're doing though with this character. You're taking this character that's fundamentally an anti-war character, and in the second one you're turning him into a pro-war character. You know what I mean? So it's like it's sort of it's a
complete opposite of what you did in the first one.
It's tonally and you know intellectually it's so intellectually dishonest on so many levels.
It's so ridiculous.
It just sucks.
You know what about my. You talk about the ending, the pretentiousness of this film.
Yeah.
You know, since we're on the subject of pretentiousness. The ending where Rambo's walking away and Troutman says to him, "How are you going to get by, John? How are you going to make a living? You know,
day by day."
And I added my own dialogue at that point too, where he said, "Well, I just signed a $60 million deal for a 3-picture deal." You know, I think that'll hold me over for a little while.
Rocky IV's coming out next summer, so
I don't think Stallone financially is going to be in a lot of trouble after this movie.
No, at the end of this one, he just walks off into the jungle too. He's just like.
No, but I'm talking about the actor himself.
I know.
It's like,
the character though too has given up, and it's
you know, one thing I do want to mention in this because Stallone took a real beating when this film came out, actually, from Vietnam vets.
I'm sure they do. You know, I'm sure it did piss off people.
But the thing that was interesting to me, though,
you're turning the Vietnam War into like an action set piece, like a stunt thing at like an amusement park. You know, like one of those cheesy stunt shows. It's like the Vietnam stunt show. And it's like, hey, let's do the spikes, let's do the pit, let's do the guy chained up and electrocuted. Let's like hit all the notes. Well, of all
it's not just that. Stallone actually. In real life, he was opposed to the Vietnam War. You know,
Well,
he actually didn't go. He was drafted and left the country.
Didn't go. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
but,
that's right. So he did not fight, even though he was technically of the age.
That's why
where
they were.
could
Yeah.
have.
That's why Vietnam veterans were so upset at
That
him.
would piss me off too.
Yeah,
that's totally
but the
legitimate.
truth is John Wayne. You know what I'm saying? You know, he didn't fight in World War II.
He didn't fight in World War II. Yeah.
Even though he was of age.
Wayne
to
was
do
sort
that.
of, but I think Wayne
I
was,
mean,
he was a little bit older though.
He was
wasn't-
38, I think.
Yeah, so Wayne kind of fell between the wars, where he would have been in prime fight, probably a little bit too young in the first one, and a little bit too old for the second one.
Yeah.
You know, so he has more of an excuse, but I think that Rocky would have been, a kid, ready about that
he
age,
was the right age,
like
but the
18,
thing,
19.
but the thing was, this is the thing about it, where I mentioned that, and a lot of people were for Stallone doing what he did, openly, and they said, "Good for him, man. He didn't believe in the war. He shouldn't have gone."
Yeah,
and this is another issue I really think we need to hit, was the Vietnam War itself was a huge mistake, and we shouldn't have gone.
Yeah, well, that's what all
that's
this
something
is.
that the movie doesn't even. This
happened,
even touch.
yeah, and this all happened in the '80s when there was this whole thing about Vietnam kind of came back in the movie form.
Yeah.
About 10, 15 years later, in the '80s, you had this whole tide of
Vietnam movies,
and Vietnam was in the forefront, and about how it was the nation sort of coming to terms with what happened in Vietnam and the splits, the schisms in society, et cetera, and also the misguided attempts to justify the war politically and all that kind of stuff, and so all these things were coming to the foreground, and
I mean, my own
it was what it is it's sort of in part it's kind of a natural navel gazing that happens whenever a generation becomes old enough to sort of be the one that's making the movies about its generation, so it's like, well, of course we've got to, so some of it was sort of, and by the time you get to Rambo, I mean, First Blood's like 80, Rambo's like 85, so by the time you got that, you've already had 5 years of this shit going on, and so it's like, it's like, are we getting to the end of this now? And that's when you start veering into this sort of self-parody, like I was talking about, where you're just getting the Vietnam notes. At this point, it's a very cynical product. It doesn't care about Vietnam, I mean, it doesn't. Nobody's losing any sleep about Vietnam making this movie, Rambo 2. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I really can't recommend it, because I do feel there is sort of just a little bit too much cynical, mean-spirited, and also this movie doesn't need a champion, like you're saying. It's made a lot of money. Yeah. So I don't sit here and have to parrot and champion this movie.
Well, one thing that
I don't have to bring anybody.
I do want to make a point about is the fact when movies like this make a ton of money. Yeah. Yeah, the public is saying to Hollywood, make more crap like this. Give us more of this crap. And ultimately, the viewing audience is guilty.
They did.
Responsible for having more Michael Bay's making Transformer movies. More comic book movies, action movies.
Rambo makes a movie is like Shakespeare compared to a movie like Transformers. You know what I mean? Even as crappy as it is, so you're right. I mean, you're just going to go right down the toilet with it. By making these guys, giving these guys all that money back then. That's when it started this slide towards just
idiotic cartoon
explosions over characters and et cetera, et cetera.
So. Well, Damien, one of the actors I worked with on The Experiment, big actor, very respected. He said, if you're watching a preview and you see that more than 2 explosions in your preview, then your movie's about explosions.
Yeah, your movie's about explosions. That's right. Well, listen, I think on that note, I know I've kind of gone down the Rambo rabbit hole as far as I'm going to go today.
Let's wrap this up,
but
folks.
Tyler, it was great to talk to you today, and
1 minute to go.
Tack, great to see you again today.
All right, Al. All right, Tyler.
Okay.
I think this is a wrap. I think we cannot